In this video, I'm going to take you through Karun Chandok's analysis of why Lewis Hamilton received a 10-second penalty in Mexico. Now, before I go into Karun's analysis, let's be clear about the dynamics of what is going on here. We are watching a so-called sport, which is a contrivance. Things take place. They then award penalties at their discretion to certain drivers, and then the media company validates the decisions that are being made. Now, if you watch any other sport, and let's take the sport of football because we're told that that is the most watched sport on the planet. If the referee makes an egregious decision, the commentators and the pundits analyse that and they call it out. Okay, they will highlight where a referee has made an error. Here, we've got Karun that is put in front of us to validate just why it is that the referees gave Lewis Hamilton that penalty. Now, who are those referees? Because we need to understand this as well. These are the 5 stewards now. It always used to be 4 stewards, 3 provided by the FIA and 1 provided by the host nation of the Grand Prix. Now there's 5. Who are they? What are their qualifications? How good are they at being able to judge a situation and make a valid adjudication as to applying a penalty? What have they passed? What courses have they been on? What is their level of ability? What have they demonstrated they are capable of? And who continually assesses and checks that to scrutinise whether or not they are up to standard or not? Because we can check if they're up to standard and demonstrate that they absolutely are not fit. Now, if you're a sporting referee at the top level, you will have had to go through a training program. You'd have had to get qualified. You'd have had to go through your different levels of qualifications to become a football referee, for example. David Beckham, a former footballer, professional footballer. Oh, we'll just get David Beckham to referee the World Cup final, shall we? Because David used to play football. That's not how it works. Just because you may have previously been a driver in some form of motorsport doesn't qualify you to be a steward in that motorsport. Okay? Just because you can drive a car quickly doesn't mean that your decision making and your ability to analyse racing situations and adjudicate on them is good enough. Okay, your understanding of the rules and regulations and why things need to be a certain way doesn't mean that you understand all that. So, just because you might have played the sport doesn't qualify you as an official in that sport. Who are these 5 people? Are they qualified? And the evidence will demonstrate that not only are they not qualified, okay, they're not qualified, the evidence will demonstrate that they are not fit to pass judgment, because the judging decisions that they make are entirely wrong. Anyway, what's really disgusting about this is that the media then validate disgusting, wrong decisions. And again, this is what we're seeing in the world. We are watching a genocide unfold, still going on. We are supposed to have international courts of law that are supposed to uphold international justice. There is supposed to be consequences. There is supposed to be protections. Oh, how are we determining whether it's right or wrong still? Are the lawyers still deciding whether what Israel is doing constitutes a genocide or not? Shall we just carry on watching while people are being slaughtered until we work out what it actually is we're seeing here? And what are the media going to present? Oh, Israel has every right to defend itself. Yes. Yeah, that's how you defend yourself, isn't it? That's how you defend yourself. Oh, by slaughtering everybody. Yeah, that's the way, that's defence, is it? Rightio. Anyway, let's get into the Formula One. Let's get into Karun's analysis. Analyse why Lewis Hamilton received 10-second penalty in Mexico. Let's go.
We have 10-second penalty for the accident.
So we start the footage here with Lewis going off the track at this corner. We don't start at turn 1 where Max forced Lewis off the track. We then don't continue it through to then Max going off the track. No, we start here. That's nice. What I'm going to do, I'm actually going to slow this down because what they want us to focus on is what Lewis is doing, but we shouldn't be focusing on that. We should be focusing on what Max is doing. Let's have a look. Okay, Lewis is ahead. We'll get through to this bit. I'll do the full analysis of this. Look at this.
And we don't agree, but let's keep the head down.
Here's Max. So he had a car on his outside. Okay, Lewis. Now Lewis has locked his brakes and has chosen to go to the escape road. And again, I'll come to the reasonings for that in a minute. But look at what Max does. Once again, Max goes fully off the track. Max carries so much extra speed as always. But, you know, this is the best you've ever seen. This is Max Verstappen. He's got the most car control of everybody. It's like he's driving everybody else's car for them and thinking about everybody else's strategy as well while he's driving because he's so intelligent and he's got so much talent. But he can't keep his car on the road, can he? No, he can't. And what he's then done, so he's gone off the road. He's carried too much speed into the corner because if Lewis was going to attack him around the outside, he'd have chucked him off the road again, as he always does, because that's the kind of scene that he is. And then he comes back onto the track in an unsafe manner because you can see here, he's gone off the track. That's going to slow him down. That's going to completely ruin his line going into the second part of the chicane. And we'll just go back. Look how far George Russell is behind. Okay. There's a car length in between them there. Look at this.
Head down.
And now George Russell is ever so slightly ahead. So George Russell, in that space of time, has gained 2 car lengths on Max Verstappen. So clearly, that means that Max Verstappen has significantly slowed due to having had to go off the track because he was trying to push Lewis Hamilton off the track had Lewis Hamilton have been there to try and perform an overtake. Because that is what Max Verstappen does. Then what? George has clearly gained 2 car lengths in this time where Max has gone off the track. George is nose ahead. Look who nose is ahead now. As we're approaching a corner, we're on a little bit of a straight where you can carry a bit more speed into the straight, but then you go into a corner and you've got to slow down again. Is Max slowing down? No. Max sees another car on his outside, so Max puts his foot on the gas again. You're not going by. Woof. Fuck you, I'm coming through. This is Max Verstappen, everybody. And what does he do to George? Now, the line that a driver will take around... Oh, he didn't hit that apex! He nearly killed him! Is what the strap-on fanboy will say. But see the 2 cars here, Behrman and Antonelli. This is the line that most cars would be the normal line to take around this corner. Let's have a look here. These 2 cars. See what they did there? Behrman, Antonelli, they come round there. What did Max do? Max isn't interested in doing that. Max is concerned with bringing his car across to here to crowd this driver off the track. Yes, because that's Max Verstappen, everybody. That's what he does. That is what he does. Drives it across to here. Did Lewis do that at Silverstone 2021? Did Lewis drive his car all the way over to this side of the track to run Max out of room on that corner? No, he didn't, did he? Oh, but everybody knows you don't put a wheel up the inside at Cops. No, we've seen many overtakes there. Now, Lewis was aiming to, get to this part of the track and Max cut in on him. When he's on the outside, Max dives across you. When he's on the inside, he fucks it up the inside of you. This is Max Verstappen, the best you've ever seen. But these stewards, the qualified stewards, they don't care about that. So this is what Max does to George. This is all costing Max time here. Because now the guy that was quite a bit back wasn't really in the frame coming up there. He's overtaking Max. And it's Lewis now that's actually gained the time, apparently. Not Max that has lost time. Not George that's lost time because Max has made him lose time. It's Lewis that's gained time. So you see, when the stewards were assessing that, they should have been focusing on, look at where Ollie Behrman is relative to Lewis Hamilton, because the cars in between Hamilton and Behrman, well, they were all compromised because of what Max Verstappen was doing. Look at how Max has impacted George Russell's race by crowding him off the track, by driving in the way that he did, making Russell lose a place to Behrman. Look at that. And Russell should have been afforded the opportunity of overtaking Max. But no, Max rejoined the track, immediately got on the gas, immediately put his car into a situation where George was pushed fully wide going round that corner due to what Max Verstappen does. And he's lauded as being the best you've ever seen. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to fast forward this to when Karun starts breaking down the bullshit. In fact, I'll bring this back. It's not much on from this. I'm just going to bring it back to normal speed, and we'll try and play it through. I'm just mindful I don't want it blocked on copyright.
The grip there is so low.
We don't.
So where Lewis is saying the grip there is so low would be the runoff area where he's supposed to follow that little bit of a thin track back to the track. Okay, it looks like only the Formula One drivers that will have gone down there will know how much grip there is. And if they haven't been down there during that race weekend, then that'd be the first time they encounter that bit of track. And if their expectation is it would be at least a similar level of grip to what they would experience offline on the rest of the track, they would approach that in the same manner that they would being offline on the rest of the track. And if the grip level available is significantly less than that, you're going to get what you saw with Lewis Hamilton there, where he wasn't able to remain on that thin bit of tarmac and went off onto the grass. Okay? That, yes, is validating Lewis Hamilton, but it's likely that that's a fair analysis of what was taking place there.
This.
Here he is, absolute snake boy here himself. Now, this is an evil bastard of a human being. Evil bastard, okay? And his time will come. He'll be exposed for exactly what the fuck he is at one point in time. The world will see what this bastard is. Anyway, we'll go through it.
All right, let's take a look at that incident. First, from the off-board shot. So Verstappen goes...
That incident first from the off-board shot. So we're going back to turn one. What we need to do and what's important here is we are coming down a long straight, the start-finish straight into turn one. And where is Max? There is at least a car's length in between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Max is going to attempt an overtaking manoeuvre on the inside. In order for Max to be allowed to do that and to be afforded track room, at the braking zone, Max Verstappen has to have his car at least halfway alongside Lewis Hamilton's car. At the braking zone. Now they've come up with this bullshit set of guidelines. I'm going to do a separate video to go through this set of driving standards guidelines fully and properly, and I'll expose to you all just how bullshit they absolutely are. This is the governing body of the sport that has prepared this and put this out to the people. Nobody's scrutinised it, nobody's analysed it, and nobody's explaining just how much absolute bullshit that is. Okay, so ignore that. It makes no sense whatsoever. The truth of the matter is, everything has to be assessed at the braking zone. Everything has to be assessed at the braking zone. If you are on track on your own, you do not have to worry about other cars. You can choose what they call to be the racing line, the line around this track, which enables you to carry as much speed through every section of this track as possible. So down the start finish straight, these cars can reach speeds in excess of 200 miles an hour. They will only be able to carry, for example, and I don't know the exact speed, but let's say it's 90 miles an hour through that first corner. It's probably less than that, but let's say it's 90 miles an hour through that first corner. You can only carry 90 miles an hour through that first corner. If you start off wide where they all are, you sweep across to the curbing of that corner and end up wide on exit of that corner. Only when you can do that can you carry that amount of speed. If you come into that corner on this line here and then try to take that corner and you try to do it at 90 miles an hour, you will not stay on the track. Your car will not take a tighter curve at 90 miles an hour. If you're taking a tighter curve, it will not do it at that speed. It's physics. So depending on the line that you are taking that corner in, determines the speed that you can carry through that corner. Depending on the line that you're entitled to take, determines the speed that you can take. You have to brake your car to that speed. Hence, the line that you're allowed to take has to be determined at the braking zone where you are decelerating your car to the appropriate speed in order to take that corner. It's nothing to do with a race to the apex where you then determine in a snapshot who now is at this location at this time and who now is entitled to what room on exit of this corner. It's a bullshit fucking idea that they invented to validate Max Verstappen. The assessment of who is entitled to what is a dynamic process. You look in your rear view mirror. So you're driving a car, you're concentrating on driving your car, you're trying to assess where your fellow competitors are around you. You then need to make that assessment as a driver to determine what it is you need to do based on what the other driver has earned. So you need to check your mirror, you need to look, you need to assess. You need to make a decision and then apply that decision. That process takes a fraction of a second at least. Let's say it takes half a second. Let's say it takes half a second. How far does a car travel in half a second? How far does this Formula One car going at full speed down this track travel in half a second? Oh, so it's not a snapshot, is it? They don't have a snapshot. They don't have a photograph to look at to determine, ooh, what do we do here? No, it's a dynamic process. During that process, you've moved on 100 metres. You've moved on 50 metres. It's a braking zone. It's a zone where you are decelerating. During that zone is where you're making an assessment as to the location of the other car relative to yours to determine which line you're entitled to. If they've not earned the position, if they've not earned the right to be left racing room, you as the lead driver are entitled to take whichever line you wish. Because they've not earned the right to be there, they are required to back out. If they've earned the right to be there, then you have to brake your car appropriately to afford them track room as the lead car. You can't just dive across and go for this apex on the corner. You have to leave them at least a car's width. And then, because there's now 2 cars going around that corner side by side, they have to leave you width on exit of that corner. You can't say, oh, I arrived there just a fraction ahead of you. I'm 1 centimetre ahead of you at the apex. That means this corner is now mine. No, you've both gone in there attempting to get as close to 90 miles an hour around that corner as possible. Whatever that speed might be, depending on the line you're now taking, you are now at the apex. You're carrying as close to 90 miles an hour as possible. You can't now say, oh, you are no longer entitled to track room. Where are you going to go? It's too late. The edge of the track is looming. What if that track is Monaco? Where's the runoff area? Oh, there isn't one. There isn't a runoff area. These guidelines are applied to every overtaking manoeuvre at every track, at every Grand Prix of the season. If they don't work at any of these tracks, then they're bullshit guidelines, aren't they? What if there's no runoff area and somebody's beating you to the apex, but you raced in there so hard? Oh, now what? Shit. There's nowhere for you to go. The FIA in charge of safety. Oh, did any of you look at this document and scrutinise it to work out that it's all bullshit? Oh, no, you didn't, did it? Did you? Absolute bastards. Lying bastards, lying to the world about this show. Okay? Lying to validate this CNUT here. Right? Anyway, let's have a look what's going on.
All right, let's take a look at that incident. First, from the off
boards. Now, I'll just go back a bit. This black marker is, I believe, the 150 marker. 150 metres out from the corner. When you're coming down a straight, having been up to speeds of in excess of 200 miles an hour, you're going to be starting to brake at this stage. If we've got the onboards, we'll hear the engine deceleration, we'll hear the down changes. Unfortunately, we've not got that at this stage, but we'll look at the difference. We'll try and look at the points in the track where Max reaches that point of being halfway alongside. This is a dive bomb. This isn't acceptable. Even these say you're not allowed to dive bomb. Okay? These are bullshit, but they still say you're not allowed to dive bomb. Have its front axle at least alongside the mirror, prior to and at the apex. Even that notion there, prior to. Where is prior to the apex? Where is prior to the apex? And we'll just go with this rather than have to keep switching back all the time. Be driven in a fully controlled manner, particularly from entry to apex, and not have dived in. What constitutes a dive in? Oh, would that be when the lead driver is in the braking zone and the other driver hasn't made it to the point which gives them the right to be left track room, and yet they still dive into the space, forcing their way. Oh, yeah, that's the diving, isn't it? Yeah, that's what it is. And in the steward's estimation, because they're not very good at estimating, these qualified stewards who don't have any qualifications in stewarding, in their estimation, they're not very good at estimating, are they? Have taken a reasonable racing line and being able to complete the move whilst remaining within track limits. Oh, was Max able to remain within track limits at that chicane? No, he wasn't, was he? He wasn't. What's a reasonable racing line? You see, here's the thing. That's bullshit. Because going around this corner, neither car is on the racing line. The racing line would be here, across to the curb on the inside, sweeping you out on exit to the far curb. Right, Lewis Hamilton cannot be on that racing line because he starts here, has to leave a car's width on the inside. Oh, so he's not on the racing line, is he? Max Verstappen is not on the racing line because he can't start here because Lewis Hamilton's here. Max has to start here. Max is on a much tighter line going into the corner. That's not the racing line. So when 2 cars are challenging going into a corner, neither car is on the racing line. So this is a bullshit fucking document, isn't it? In the steward's estimation, have taken a reasonable racing line. No, when 2 cars are competing, neither car is on the racing line. Wankers. Anyway, we'll carry on.
All right, let's take a look at that incident. First, from the off-board shot. So
Max is still behind. Now, what we're doing from the Sky Sports analysis is not giving a very good perspective. We've zoomed right in, so you're not seeing the markers. Where's the braking zone? Well, you see, that's easy enough for them to do. They can easily create graphics. They can put overlays over the screen to go, this is the zone where the cars are braking, because they can get all the telemetry of all of the cars and lay that out onto the screen. This is the zone where the cars are making their decision, putting their braking input in to decelerate their car to the appropriate speed to take that line around that corner. Now, on the line that Lewis Hamilton is on, he is on the wider line, and when you're on the wider line around a corner, you can usually carry more speed. When you're on a tighter line of corner, which is what the inside line is, you have to decelerate more, otherwise your car will not maintain that tight line. It'll be understeering. Yeah, it'll carry on in a straight line, won't it? Yes. But Max is still behind.
Verstappen goes for the...
Let's slow this down. Wait there.
All right, let's take a look at that incident. First, from the off-board.
Let's see what we can do with playback speed.
Shot. So
Still behind at that point there.
Verstappen goes...
Oh, and we jump. He's now halfway alongside. Look at the line of these cars here. Well, we'll say a line of the cars. I'm trying to look on the rubber marks on the track. Verstappen is about halfway alongside. This bullshit about being level with the mirrors. Are Max Verstappen's front wheels level with Lewis Hamilton's wing mirrors? Now, if you drew a line through Lewis Hamilton's wing mirrors across there, Max's front wheels are still behind the line of Lewis Hamilton's wing mirrors. The actual ruling is halfway alongside his car. It's probably not quite halfway alongside. Difficult to see from this perspective.
For the line.
At that point there, I would suggest that Max Verstappen is at least halfway alongside Lewis Hamilton's car. It's too late though. It's too late. That's a dive bomb.
Down the inside, came from
Yeah, too late.
quite some way back.
So, by carrying that much speed into the corner, is Max's car going around that corner?
But at this point, at the apex, he is in front.
Oh, the validator from Sky Sports. At this point, at the apex, Max is in front. So this is okay, everybody. No, it's not okay. It's far from okay. Let's go back to normal speed to listen to Karun.
So he's on the inside. He came from quite some way back. But at this point, at the apex, he is in front. So
Where's the apex, Karen? Where's the apex? Midpoint of the corner? The midpoint, of the... It's a variable position. You could take an early apex, a late apex. When we get back to the guidelines, prior to and at the apex, where along that straight was prior to the apex? Every point along that straight was prior to the apex, wasn't it, Karen? At which of those points is the point that we make the assessment, Karen? Oh, them guidelines are ambiguous, aren't they? They don't make sense, do they? When you've got an undefined, it's just bullshit. An undefined point, an arbitrary point prior to, well, that could be anywhere.
he's got himself where he needs. Little bit of wheel banging there, but
Little bit of wheel banging there. Now that's called causing a collision. That is a 10-second penalty. How do the media describe that? Oh, Israel Verstappen's got every right to defend himself with a little bit of wheel banging. No, that's causing a collision. 10-second penalty. Do our qualified stewards identify that a driver has caused a collision and therefore gets a 10-second penalty for that? What's happening now? Well, the car on the inside has carried so much extra speed that he hasn't left the car that he's challenging track room on exit of this corner. Imagine this was Monaco, where this green section is that Lewis is now on. That's not there at Monaco. We've got a crash barrier in here. Every Grand Prix circuit where a Formula 1 Grand Prix takes place, well, it's the same rules, is it not? What if Max put this move in at Monaco? Where's Lewis going to go? Oh, Lewis would be in the position that Max's car is in. Because otherwise he'd have crashed into the barrier. Oh, so where's Max then? Oh, Max's car's in the same position as Lewis's car. Oh, that's a crash then, isn't it? Two cars occupying the same space at the same time. Oh, that's a crash. How do these guidelines work then, everybody? Are the guidelines suitable? Oh, the guidelines aren't suitable. Did anybody at the FIA determine that there's a flaw with the guidelines? Oh, no, it's Max Verstappen rules, everybody. But Karun here will validate to the smooth brain. Oh, look, everybody. This is the reason that Lewis Hamilton got the 10-second penalty. Dive bomb. Max Verstappen wasn't entitled to be left track room, but he threw it in there like Max Verstappen does. Caused a collision. Crowded Lewis Hamilton off the track. We'll see this more on the onboard when we see Max Verstappen's steering inputs. That's to come.
Max stays on track. Lewis is forced off there a little bit.
Max stays on track. Lewis is forced off a little bit. Right, no, that's still not okay. Don't validate that, oh, it's okay for Max because he managed to stay on track. You have to leave the other car track room. Many of the circuits used, there is nothing beyond track limits. There's nothing beyond the white line but a wall or a barrier. Oh, but the car trying the overtake stayed on the track. Well, he only stayed, well, where's the other car going to go? Oh, but if he's carried too much speed, he's just going to smack into the other car because the other car's still on the track in that location. There's a problem, isn't there? There's a problem with what you determine to be, in the steward's estimation, a reasonable racing. It's all bullshit. Now what? So what he's done, he's forced Lewis Hamilton off the track, compromised Lewis's approach to this corner, because Lewis has had to then come back on the track. Okay?
At the second apex, it's the opposite, but...
It's the opposite, is it? So let's have a look. As Lewis, the one that's fucked it up the inside of the second apex. Let's have a look. Let's go back to here. They're coming around there side by side. Remember, this is dynamic. Okay? We're not freeze framing this. You're Lewis Hamilton. You are side by side. You're not going, oh, no, I'm not. Now I'm just behind. Now, no, you're fighting. For every 10th of a second that passes, there's a constant change with the positions of these cars. You are fighting for position.
Got himself where he needs. Little bit of wheel banging there.
Side by side. Side by side. Collision.
But Max stays on track.
Side by side. Lewis isn't fucking it up the inside, carrying more speed in, is he?
Forced off there.
Now what? Now, Lewis is slowing down because Lewis is on the tighter line to this corner. Max on the wider line can take a bit more speed. You can see from being side by side, Max's car is now edging ahead. Why is he edging ahead? Oh, it's because he's carrying a bit more speed. He's edging ahead even though he's taking the longer line around there, yeah?
A little bit. At the second apex, it's the
opposite, is it, Karen?
opposite, but you can see there, Verstappen has got his nose in front. He then decides...
So when he's on the inside, Max forces his nose in front. When he's on the outside, Max gets his nose in front. Oh, now who's going off the track? Again, we'll see this from the onboards much better. We'll see when Max Verstappen makes a decision to exit the track. There was still track room at that stage for him. Where this ends up, will demonstrate that there is not a car's width left for Max Verstappen. But at this stage here, at the point in time where you see Max Verstappen move his hand to make that choice, there was room. There certainly was room. Now and play this through. Did Lewis Hamilton go off the track himself? Did Lewis Hamilton take his car over this white line himself, making sure that there was no room? Let's have a look.
To go across.
And the answer is no. There was still some section of track. Now, this is again where the FIA get this wrong. There needs to be a full car's width for the other car if they are there on track. The way the FIA will adjudicate this is if your tyre is in contact with the track, you are deemed to be on track, even if 95% of your car is off the track. Just as long as your rubber of your tyre is touching the white line and the rest of your car's off the track, you are deemed in contact with the track. That's bollocks. Okay? Because what if it's like grass like this? What if it's gravel? No, you've been forced off the track. You are entitled to be on the track. A car's width, the width of your car should be left. Lewis Hamilton hasn't done that. What has he done in terms of, would he have been able to do that? Would he have done that had Max Verstappen not bailed out? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Looking at how quickly that played out, I would estimate that no. But the actual answer is I don't know. And we'll see more from the onboards. Was it when Lewis Hamilton realised that Max wasn't going to be there, allowed his car to drift fully over? Could be. But now what? From being in a position where they come round here, they are almost side by side. They're side by side. As near to damn it, they are side by side.
There a little bit.
Now Lewis decelerates more to go around the corner.
At the second apex, it's the opposite, but you could see there, Verstappen has got his nose in front. He
Within a second of that apex,
then decides
Max leaves the track. So, at the point in time where they leave the track, they're almost side by side.
to go across the grass, and
Max rejoins the track. How many car lengths in front? How many car lengths in front does Max rejoin the track in? 3 car lengths in front now after being side by side. So he's gained a lasting advantage, hasn't he? He's gained 3.5 car lengths by leaving the track. Did he have to leave the track there? Did Lewis Hamilton force him off? No, did he? Did Lewis Hamilton bang him? No. Coming around that first corner, Max Verstappen drove into Lewis Hamilton, caused a collision. Max Verstappen drove to an area of the track where there's absolutely no room for Lewis Hamilton to have any part of his car in contact with the track. Had he have done so, Max Verstappen would have hit him. That is hitting somebody, that is driving somebody off track. 2 10-second penalties. Max Verstappen has then driven over the grass, left the track, rejoined, gained an unfair advantage, at least 3.5 car lengths. 3 10-second infringements. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And this is the shit show they're selling us. They are racist bastards.
instead of trying to squeeze through.
So there you go. Everything's grounded in context. That has just happened to Lewis Hamilton. That has just happened to Lewis Hamilton. Coming down that start-finish straight, Lewis Hamilton was ahead of Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen has done a dive bomb. He's collided with Lewis Hamilton. He's driven Lewis Hamilton off the track. He's then cut a corner and rejoined the track 3.5 car lengths in front of him. 3 separate infringements. This is where he now is. So if that happened to you, what are you going to do in the context of a sporting event? Well, you're going to try to get that justice back for yourself. You're going to try and make that overtake. You're going to try and carry more speed to get that overtake, which is what he now does.
On 3 and make contact. He's got in front.
Now, here's the other thing. The impact that Max Verstappen has had on Lewis Hamilton by doing that, by forcing him off the track, by making Lewis have to lose so much speed by being forced off the track, compromising his line into turn 2. means that George Russell's now been able to catch up and now challenging Lewis. So not only has Max impacted Lewis by overtaking him illegally, he's now made Lewis Hamilton susceptible to being overtaken by another car. This is how dirty this is.
He's got that position. Now Lewis is battling George Russell on the run down to turn.
So let's do this in slow-mo. And just drop this down.
4. They get to the break.
We get to the braking zone. Now, Lewis is now attempting the overtake on the outside. When you're trying to do an overtake on the outside, you have to be at least alongside the car that you're trying to overtake. Because when you're trying to overtake on the inside, you're taking the shorter radius of curve. When you're attempting the overtake on the outside, it's a larger radius of curve. You've got to go further. So your start position has to be at least alongside. Okay? You're behind them essentially still when you are on the inside. But because you've got a shorter distance to travel, that's why they say halfway alongside on the inside. So, is Lewis Hamilton alongside? Well, at this moment in time, he's probably an inch or two behind Verstappen. Where is the braking zone? They could quite easily show us. We're having to make this assessment. Where are the drivers assessing where the braking zone is? During the time that they're assessing where the braking zone is, where are their cars travelling? Are they looking in their mirrors? Are they determining now, during this half a second, during that half a second that they're determining who's entitled to what? Is the relative positions of those cars changing? Oh, it's a dynamic process, isn't it? Yes, a dynamic process, not a snapshot prior to, an undefined point prior to, and a snapshot at the apex itself. No, that's too late. That's too late. So, note here, neither car is on the racing line. The racing line would be the line that George Russell and Oliver Bearman would seek to be on. Staying wide to open up that corner, the first part of the chicane, as much as possible to make it into a sweep rather than a tight turn. Ideally, on exit of this, they don't want to come all the way to the opposite side of the track, because what it does, it compromises the setup for the second part of the chicane. And you'll see that. So, what's Max Verstappen doing? Look at what Max does, and you look at both George and Ollie Bearman setting themselves up for the second part of the chicane. So Lewis Hamilton has actually nosed himself slightly ahead just in that frame there. Okay, slightly ahead. From being slightly behind, he's now slightly ahead. It's a matter of inches either way. All right, so Lewis Hamilton on the outside, able to carry more speed into the corner because he's taken a wider line, has carried that more speed. Now what?
And he goes the move.
Oh, well, you're seeing Lewis Hamilton brake, but he locks. But Max Verstappen, the car on the inside, has gone back ahead again. So the car on the inside that's got to decelerate more because it has to take a tighter line. Oh, it isn't decelerating more, is it? It's now got itself ahead again. Oh, this is Max Verstappen. When he's on the outside, he goes faster. And when he goes on the inside, he goes faster. He just fucks it up there. He won't be overtaken. No, he'd rather crash you than get overtaken. This is Max Verstappen, everybody. The best you've ever seen. This is dangerous. This is filth. Lewis is locked up. Now, there's two ways of looking at this. Now, my belief, but I'm not Lewis Hamilton. Only Lewis Hamilton can actually tell you what he was thinking at this point in time. My belief, from what I'm observing, would say that Lewis has locked up and he's realised that having locked up, he is now unlikely to make it around this corner under control, and hence he's elected to take to the runoff area. Okay, that is what I think is happening from what I'm observing. One possibility is Lewis Hamilton is assessing his own speed. He's just braked. He's seeing where Max Verstappen is going. And he's thinking to himself, well, hang on a minute. If I'm struggling to make this corner at this speed, and he's going faster and he's on my inside, he's not making the corner. Get out of there. That could well be what's going on here. These drivers do have the capacity they know themselves whether or not they're going to be able to make a corner or not. They know that. They are that good. They've got the awareness to understand how fast are the other cars around me going. If I can't make the corner at this speed and that car's just going faster than me on a different line, on a tighter line that needs to be slower, and he's going faster, there's no way he's making that corner. So did Lewis Hamilton make that assessment of Max Verstappen and bail out because of that? I don't know. Only Lewis Hamilton would be able to tell you that. We're not going to get an answer to that. But let's have a look what happens.
Around the outside.
Now you'll see that Lewis Hamilton makes the decision. You'll see them front wheels of his car, and you'll see now that he doesn't make an attempt to keep it on track going around that corner. Race control has obviously identified that this could be a dynamic at this corner, and should that be the case, here's what you need to do. Okay, go off into this marked area and follow that little track back to the track for that safe entry, designed so that you do not gain an unfair advantage should you need to do this. That track back to the track is very narrow. Did they test it out in racing conditions to see if it was fit for purpose? Did the FIA test that to see if their provision was actually fit for purpose? I wonder. Anyway, let's have a look what goes on.
Now it's gone.
Let's listen to Karun's bullshit. Playback speed normal.
Clear down that straight that Hamilton's in front.
No, it's not Karun. See, I see what you've done there, Karun. You've rewound it to this point in time because we can then use the guidelines where the guidelines is had his front axle at least alongside, prior to, and at the apex. Now this is the one on the inside, so we're going to the one on the outside. Have its front axle ahead at the apex. What about the prior to? The prior to. At what point prior to? So at this point prior to, Karun, Max is ahead.
Sorry, Hamilton's in front of George, but Verstappen's in front of them both. So Verstappen is in front.
At this point prior to, who's now in front, Karun? So you didn't rewind it to there, did you, Karun? No, you rewound it to the point where Max was in front. You didn't rewind it to the point where Lewis was in front, because you had to rewind it to a point to validate the agenda, didn't you, Karun? Because that's what you have to do. You have to validate why Max was always in the right and Lewis was always in the wrong. If you'd have just rewound it to here, we could have gone, oh, well, actually, no, Lewis, when you got this freeze frame, it would appear that Lewis is okay, wouldn't it? Which freeze frame are we going by, Karun? Oh, the one which validates the Max Verstappen fluffing agenda.
Of them there, having made that lunge at turn one. Now, both
having made that lunge into turn one. Let's go through what you said again there, Karun.
Front of them both. So Verstappen is in front of them there, having made that lunge at turn one.
So Verstappen's in front, having made the lunge at turn one. What made the late lunge? So the illegal dive bomb, having collided, not just bumped, okay, caused a crash, collided with Lewis Hamilton, causing a collision, 10-second penalty, having crowded Lewis Hamilton off the track at turn one, that one, having then left the track and gained a 3.5 car length advantage, them 3 infringements, having made the late lunge at turn one is how he describes that. So there's 3 offences, and Karun, rather than identify those 3 Max Verstappen offences, says
Verstappen's in front of them both. So Verstappen is in front of them there, having made that lunge at turn one.
Having made the lunge, he's ahead. Yeah? No identification of the 3 offences, just having made the lunge, he's ahead. Yeah? Thanks for that, Karun.
Now both Max and Lewis go.
So look at the line being taken around this first part of the chicane by these cars. Russell, Behrman, Antonelli. And look at Max Verstappen's line. We'll do this slowly. Focus on them cars rather than, well, look at Max Verstappen relative to them as well. Look at Max's line and compare that with the line that's taken by Russell, Behrman and Antonelli. And look at this point here. Here is Hamilton, here is Russell, here is Behrman. Look how far back Antonelli is. How much does Antonelli gain on everybody? Because of this, how everybody else is slowed down due to what Max Verstappen's doing.
Is in front of them there, having made that lunge at turn 1.
So these cars wide and trying to come down here. Max Verstappen off here.
Now,
why is Max Verstappen off here? Because he had on entry to that corner a car on his outsides, so Max drives across the track to run them out of track room. What Max does, that's illegal. Again, what happens if this is a street circuit enclosed by walls and barriers? Where's this car on the outside gonna go? Oh, you go up against Max, you get fucked into the barrier. Oh, this is Max Verstappen, everybody. No, he's a thug, an absolute thug. Now, what do our judges think of Max Verstappen? Oh, they just make the decisions in favour of Max Verstappen. The qualified stewards. Look at Max's line. Was Max driving his car in a controlled manner, like the guidelines say? In the steward's estimation, have taken a reasonable racing line and been able to complete the move whilst remaining within track limits. Is Max Verstappen taking a reasonable racing line? These are on a reasonable racing line. What line is this? This is driving across the line of a car that should have been on the outside. Has he been able to remain within track limits?
Max and Lewis go.
No, he hasn't, has he? No, Max hasn't been able to stay within track limits. So he's carried too much speed into a corner and not been able to remain on the track. Oh, how many times in Max's career has he done that? Oh, every time that the car is challenging him on the outside, Max can't seem to keep his car on the fucking track, can he? No, Max, when he's got a car on his outside, can't keep his car on the fucking track. There's a problem with that driver, isn't there? There's a fucking problem with that driver if every time he's got a car on his outside going into the corner, he can't keep his car on the track. He's dangerous. He's a fucking danger. So, now let's be clear about this. If I had a son driving in Formula 1 and they went up against a driver like Max Verstappen, I would knock the cunt out. Simple as that. Anyway, George Russell, Oliver Behrman, and we've got Antonelli coming round this corner.
Why? See, Verstappen's gone wide.
Verstappen's gone wide, says Karen. Thanks for that, Karen. Thanks for that. Oh, dear me. Now, Lewis, obviously, you're in a race. You're gonna try to carry what speed you can. You're not gonna like go, oh, I'm off the track now. I've got to crawl down to 30 miles an hour and go around it. No, you're going to try and go through this section as fast as possible. You are going to assume that this is the equivalent of driving on the track offline. So you know that offline, off the racing line, the level of grip is less. So you're probably assuming that what you're now driving on has got an equivalent level of grip to the level of grip available when you're offline on the track. It is likely that what his experience is now is less grip than that, meaning that when he's tried to turn, assuming his car will grip, it hasn't gripped and he's now gone off onto the grass. So having gone off onto the grass, he's then tried to keep control of his car and driven his car in a curve back on to rejoin the track in a safe manner. Okay, now when you're travelling over grass, you're not going to be flooring the accelerator, because what you're going to see is you're likely to lose control of your car. You're essentially kind of a passenger when you're going over the grass and you're waiting to get back to the track. You're just trying to keep control, get back to the track, make sure you can establish grip again, and then off you go. That's what he's doing. He's managing that situation, having experienced that loss of grip in this situation. Now, there is the argument that could easily be presented, which is valid, that it's his responsibility to keep his car under control. I agree. However, you've also got to accept that there are mitigating circumstances. Is it a fair assumption of that driver to think that, okay, I should have a similar level of grip here to what I'm experiencing when I'm offline on the track? It looks similar. Hopefully the level of grip will be similar. If I've not driven this before, don't have experience of it, and then when you do drive it for the first time, you realise that's not the grip, that's a bit of a problem, isn't it? Should there be allowances made? Well, put yourself in that situation. These are one of them things where it should be discretionary. Does he appear to have slowed down? You can look at his telemetry. Looking at the angle of where he needs to turn to, what speed is he carrying? Under normal circumstances, would that car be able to make that type of turn if grip levels were what he was anticipating they were going to be? That would normally happen. Was his manner of driving reasonable? If that was all reasonable and this sort of thing happened, is where you've got to apply some discretion and say, okay, we can see what's taken place here and we'll just accept it for what it is. If you're driving recklessly and trying to carry too much speed over there so that he doesn't lose too much advantage, and again, you can look at the angle of what he's supposed to go through, you can look at the speeds that any other drivers might have taken through there, and if it was significantly higher, you're like, no, you're clearly going too fast, reckless, you had no chance of staying on there, penalty. I've got nothing to compare it with, don't have the data. But that's the way you need to start judging these sorts of incidents. Let's listen to Karun again. Let's go back to normal speed to listen to Karun's bullshit.
There, having made that lunge at turn 1. Now both Max and Lewis go wide.
Both Max and Lewis go wide. What's he say about Max?
You can see Verstappen's gone wide there.
See, you can see there, Verstappen's gone wide. Yeah, he's gone fully off the track there, Karun. We're looking at the other drivers, okay, and the line they're taking relative to Max.
And Hamilton's gone down that escape road. Now, the race director's note said if you go down there, you need to follow that track. As
yes, that's absolutely right. That's fine.
we'll see, Lewis doesn't. He goes across.
Right. So
Let's
try and slow this down a bit. I don't know whether we're going to be able to see. I don't know whether we're going to be able to determine the traction that Lewis has. I honestly don't know. We'll check it out. I'll try and zoom in on it.
There, you need to follow that track. As we'll see, Lewis.
Well, you can see there. That there is the car. Is the back end seems to be coming out on him, and therefore he's counter steered to correct it. And if we've got an onboard of that, I'm sure that that's what it will show. To me, it would look like Lewis has put the steering input in to be able to drive around here, but his back end's come out, meaning he's having to counter steer over to the right, which means then the front end of his car's bringing over here. That's what it would look to me from the way the back end of his car appears to step out there.
He goes.
And hence that's why now he's coming at that angle.
Across the track.
And once you're on the grass, if you then attempt to bring it back around here, then your back end of your car could quite easily swing out of you. Once you're on the grass, you kind of want to try to keep the car pointing in the direction it's going rather than making big steering inputs to drag yourself back over here when the rest of the momentum of your car is going to try and be coming this way. So you try and just go with where your car is pointing.
Oh, he was investigated for this,
And you can see it's slightly sliding as he's going.
but the stewards.
Okay. So he was investigated for that, but they probably acknowledged the fact that he attempted it. They looked at his steering inputs and went, well, you tried, and obviously you've come off to the grass because the back end of your car stepped out. Now, he's clearly ahead of these, but he's travelling at a significantly slower speed, and they're picking up speed immediately. Lewis Hamilton doesn't immediately floor it. What we're going to get from Karun's analysis is when we get on board with Lewis, we can see that Lewis Hamilton hasn't slowed down there. This is after the corner. He doesn't pick it up right here.
Let him.
So he coasts back onto the track, doesn't really coasts around the corner, and then having come around this corner, then accelerates in the same way he would normally do. But he's carried less speed into the corner.
Off the hook.
Now again, what we're not seeing here, we've changed perspective so we don't get to see the rate of closure of these cars here relative to Lewis Hamilton. You see what they do? They don't give us an aerial view of the whole lot, and we see how the gaps in between these cars change. We don't see that. They could show us that, but no, they don't want to show us that because that won't fit their narrative.
What?
We're not focusing on George Russell having been pushed off the track by Max Verstappen there.
They didn't let him off the hook for
was Ollie Behrman banging Max Verstappen?
gaining and
Well, there's Lewis Hamilton there. There's Lewis Hamilton. There's Ollie Behrman. Bearing in mind now, yes, he's significantly ahead of Max, but Max has lost time. George has lost time because Max has been going off the track and compromising his line through that chicane, compromising George through that chicane. This is why Behrman's up to here, because these cars are slowed down. So yes, Lewis Hamilton's gained some, but some of that gain is due to the losses, due to the way Max Verstappen is driving. So Max Verstappen has committed 3 offences on Lewis Hamilton. He's then left the track at the chicane because he's carried too much speed into the chicane, driving recklessly. He then compromises George Russell, forcing George Russell off the track, making George Russell lose a place to Behrman. So that's crowding off the track, compromising the race for another driver. That's 4 penalties for Max Verstappen. Oh no, we'll just penalise Lewis. Not even a mention of Max Verstappen, just the penalty for Lewis Hamilton. The victim of the situation gets cited for causing a collision. So you go to the FIA documents, gets cited for allegedly causing that collision with Max Verstappen. Oh, the bump, that one. Gets cited for failing to follow the race director's race instructions, which is not being able to follow that track, which is fair. He didn't. Okay. And then leaving the track and gaining an advantage. Well, he did leave the track. Did he gain an advantage relative to Behrman? We need the timings of that, don't we? We need the timings of that. In the run-up to that chicane, what was the time difference between Hamilton and Verstappen? And Behrman? Ignore Verstappen and Russell because Verstappen has compromised them. Because the way of assessing this is Hamilton versus Behrman. Now we can assess Hamilton versus Behrman. What's the time difference? How much has he gained relative to Behrman? It's not about gaining position over Verstappen. Verstappen has illegally taken that position. Oh, when we're on exit of turn 2, Verstappen's gained 3.5 car lengths. Have we assessed that? Verstappen did an illegal overtake. Verstappen caused a collision. Lewis Hamilton's the victim of all that. You're trying to say, Lewis is the one gaining the advantage. Who's the one that gained the advantage through their illegal manoeuvre? Through them cutting the corner. Did Max lock up and bail out? No. Max chose to do that. Was Max forced off the track? No. If Max had tried to keep his car in contact with the track, would he have been ran out of room? Probably not. If Lewis had have tried to remain on the track at that chicane, would he have been ran out of room? Yes, Max would have smashed into him, wouldn't he? Because Max fully left the track himself. Who's the problem here? Oh, that would be Max Verstappen, wouldn't it? But Karun will validate this is the reason why Lewis got the penalty.
Advantage, and he's clearly gained.
Lewis has clearly gained. Yeah, but let's have a look at the timing relative to Behrman. That's how you need to assess this.
Both in terms of gap to the chasing pack of Behrman and the
Don't look that many car lengths there, but
Verstappen, but more importantly, gained.
now look at this from Behrman. Unfortunately, this sort of thing is wrong. But when you see somebody like Max Verstappen continually getting away with being allowed to drive the way that he does, you actually want to see other drivers do things against him just to overcome it. But this is still illegal, and the reason being is Behrman can't remain on the track. Nobody's really saying anything about it, but that's the truth of the matter. This isn't a valid completed overtake because he went off the track. Look.
Place.
Look at this Behrman now.
They've just.
He's gone off the track. You've had to carry too much speed into that corner to complete the overtake that you can't keep your car on the track. Right, so it's illegal. Now, nobody that obviously the Max Verstappen fans will correctly identify that that's illegal because it is. But what it's done, what this show has done, has made everybody else go, we don't fucking care that that's illegal. Fuck him, because Max Verstappen shouldn't be allowed to do that in the first place. And this is what it causes. It causes everybody else to have to drive like that in order to go up against Max Verstappen. It causes everybody else to have to take extra risk in motor racing because of the way Max Verstappen drives. Again, imagine this was a different track, a street circuit. Where's Behrman? He can't do that, can he? He can't drive like that because you end up in the fucking wall. So, it's a problem, isn't it? Does that meet the overtaking guidelines? Oh, what do the guidelines say about fucking yourself into a wall if you've carried so much extra speed? No, do the guidelines here, overtaking on the outside, so here's the outside car, have its front axle ahead at the apex, be driven in a controlled manner, entry to apex to apex. Is that in a controlled manner if you're off the track? Be able to make the corner within track limits? No, he didn't do that, did he? Didn't do that. Was there any penalty for Behrman? No, there wasn't, was there? There was only 3 penalties in that race from the stewards. In fact, no, there wasn't just 3 penalties. There was just one for Lewis, and there was only 3 sightings, only 3 things that they considered for these here. Oh, the other penalties were the Carlos Sainz speeding in the pit lane. But these are what they considered. 1, 2, 3 things against Lewis Hamilton. Did they consider that about Ollie Behrman? Oh, no. Why is that? Why is that then?
Because he's gained a place on the stab.
And again, Hamilton looked miles ahead of him there. There's a reason. There's a reason, and that's because they've been compromised going through that complex. Ollie Behrman would have liked to have started wider. Okay, and let's see if we can see what they're doing here. We can't. Let's have a
Poorly.
because they cut the line. Ideally, coming into this, you start wide, you sweep across to here, and That takes you around to where Hamilton is, and that's the quickest way through there. Behrman, knowing he'd got Verstappen on the inside, squeezed across here. So he took a much tighter line into this corner than he normally would. That's going to compromise his speed going through there. Okay? Because that's forcing Max Verstappen to take a much tighter line through there, compromising Max's speed. That compromises everybody's speed going through there. On exit of that, Behrman goes off the track, which means he's then having to rejoin the track and then take this next corner at a different line to what he would, compromising speed and hence time through there. And all that time, if Hamilton's been able to stay on a decent line, well, he's extending, isn't he? That's the way it works.
Gained place. They've just, he's gained place on the Verstappen.
And if they were qualifying laps and you'd seen Hamilton take the line he did around there and another driver take the line that Behrman's just take, you would see what difference that made in time to their qualifying lap. And this is the reason you're now seeing Hamilton be significantly ahead of Behrman. This is you've got to assess how this situation is unfolding.
Then, having been behind him, let's go on board.
Let's go on board, Karen. Now, this is where we see Max Verstappen's inputs. Sorry this is long, but it is well worth watching what Max Verstappen does.
And look at it from the cockpit. There we go. It's just taking a second to load.
Just taking a second to load. Now, I'm going to do this in slow-mo again. The reason being, I know I just changed the speed, but I wanted to change the speed so we can hear Karun's analysis. But you actually need to listen to the engine notes changing down. We're doing 200 miles an hour along this straight. You've got to decelerate. And these take time to decelerate. Let's go down to this. You're going to hear the engine notes. Now, which engine note is which? Or are they both merged? It's difficult, but you're going to get some sort of idea. Just bring it back a few seconds. Here we go.
Taking a second to load.
Right. On board with Max Verstappen. Look how far he is behind Lewis Hamilton. Okay? That one there, he's clearly behind. Listen to the engine note. I think I just detected a slight easing off of the throttle.
Load.
Yes, definitely easing off. Definitely easing off. We're going to hear down changes and we're going to hear that acceleration easing. Well, they've come off the accelerator. You can definitely hear it with the engine note. Look how far Max Verstappen is. He's over a car length behind Hamilton still. Look at these marker boards on the side. I believe this is the 100. I believe that's the 50.
As we see now, this.
Or is this the 100? No, that is the 50 by the looks of it. Yeah, 50 metres. And we're clearly hearing the... So this is down changing and braking. Max Verstappen still fully behind Lewis Hamilton. We're clearly in the braking zone. They are now braking to an appropriate speed to make it around this corner on the line that they're now entitled to. That's what they're doing. Lewis Hamilton will be assessing this. I'm fully ahead, which means I can dictate my line around here. I can take the racing line, meaning that I can probably carry, let's say it's 90 miles an hour through this corner. Now, if Max Verstappen was halfway alongside him at this point, he'd have to then make the decision, okay, I've got to leave a car's width on my inside. I've got to make provision for him being there. I can't be on the racing line. Hence, I can't carry 90 miles an hour through this corner. I need to hit the brakes harder to break this speed down to maybe 85 or 80 miles an hour. Because otherwise, if I try and go faster than that, I'm not going to stay out on the track. That is the decision making that these drivers have to make. They have to do it at this stage when they're applying the braking force. It's too late to do it later on. 50 metre board. You can clearly see 50 metre board. Max is still fully behind. Now, after coming down a long straight where they've been doing speeds in excess of 200 miles an hour, the 50-metre board is too late. Definitely too late to make this decision. This is now a dive bomb. Still behind. Remember, this is quarter speed. And for every fraction of a second, how many meters are these cars travelling? This is not a snapshot. This is a dynamic process where these drivers have to look in the mirror and make an assessment. And for each fraction of a second that they're doing that, they are travelling many meters. It's not a snapshot. This is a zone where this assessment is being made. And these inputs to the car are being made. They have to determine what they're entitled to. Max has to be at least halfway alongside. Prior to this, he's not. It's his responsibility to now go, I've not earned the right to this corner. I've got to break out of this. I've got to yield. He doesn't do that, does he?
And he's gone for the move.
Still not by level with Lewis Hamilton. There's Lewis Hamilton's mirrors. Max's front tyres aren't level. I'm guessing it's about there, where Max finally gets his front tyres level with Lewis's mirrors. Now, as Lewis Hamilton put his car on a line to set himself up for that curbing, the apex of the corner. Yeah. Now what? Now he's not allowed to be there. Oh, that's too late, isn't it? You carry in as much speed as you can into there because you think you're allowed to take that. Oh, now it's too late. Oh, now what? Oh, that's unsafe, isn't it? Because somebody's done a dive bomb. Lewis Hamilton should be converging to that, but what if this car's coming up there now? Fucking up the inside. Oh, he's on a collision course, isn't he? Two cars coming in at different angles. Oh, them paths are going to cross, aren't they? That's going to be a collision. It's Max Verstappen rules, everybody.
That apex. It's a big line.
And Lewis knows what's coming, so because he knows what he's up against. So look at Lewis Hamilton. He shouldn't have had to leave room. He's left room because it's Max Verstappen. Focus on Max Verstappen's steering wheel now. Focus on this.
But we've seen Max.
So before the apex, having steered fully right, he's now steering a bit left again. More left again. Look at that. And let's just go back. That's where he was.
We've seen Max do this before when there's a sniffing opportunity. There is a bit of a...
That was a bit of a wobble. I don't know why it's travelled at that speed. Okay. Look at that steering wheel. Almost vertical there. Before this bit of curbing. Now look what he does.
Seen Max.
Starts unwinding it. You've got a car on your outside. By unwinding it, look at the gap between these two cars. Unwind. And now he's starting to steer right again. Oh, the gap between the cars has changed. Why did you start unwinding it, Max? Now he's locking it on again. But you've drifted over to Lewis by unwinding your steering to the left there, Max.
Oh,
and he's just done it again. Bang.
No.
That's a crash. Now let's compare that with Lewis's steering inputs. This is Lewis before the corner. This is look at Lewis Hamilton's steering wheel.
Max, do this before when there's a sniff an opportunity.
So Lewis is putting a steering input in, which is leaving a car's width here and going to bring him around to here and keep within track limits at that speed. with that steering input. Lewis has to adjust because of what Max is doing.
Seen Max do this before.
Yes, we have seen this do before. See, when something goes around a curve, two things go around a curve together, they can go round in parallel, okay? Keeping a width between them. When it's Max Verstappen, he's not travelling in parallel with Lewis Hamilton, is he? He's driving across Lewis Hamilton. The line of his car cuts across the line of the other car. Oh, that's a collision. That's a problem. That's a problem.
When is this?
Max Verstappen cuts across here.
No.
Bang! Crash. Now, look at the car ahead. That's where the car ahead comes round this corner and sets itself up for the other corner. Look at the car ahead. So that's Charles Leclerc. Look at Lewis Hamilton. Look at Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc, turn one.
Big lunge, but we've seen Max do this
Look at Charles Leclerc. Look at the line that he's on.
before. When is
What width is there to Charles Leclerc's left-hand side? How far is he within that track? Charles Leclerc hasn't got anybody against him. He's on the racing line. What does Max do? Max fucks it across here and goes off the track himself. Wheels off the track, so there's no room for anybody else. This is what Max does. Max carries so much extra speed, everybody. No, look at the way racing drivers go around this circuit. Look at the way they set themselves up for here. What did Max do to Lewis?
no should
Oops.
be. There is a bit of a bump.
There's a bit of a bump, says Karen.
Hamilton has to open the wheel.
That's forced off the track. You've collided with him, you've forced him off the track, and that's but goes to Verstappen's on board. Wheels off the track.
Then
So if Max's front wheel is fully off the track, there's certainly no room for Lewis to be in contact with the track, is there? You compare that. Charles Leclerc was over here. Let's see if we can see that from Max's perspective. Look at Charles Leclerc's gone round the corner, he's gone round there, and he's ended up there. Does Max follow that?
do this before. When is this no should be.
No, this is called elbows out, argy-bargy. No, Max straightens his wheel up here and drives across to there to make sure Lewis doesn't stay there.
There is a bit of a bump. Hamilton has to open the wheel. That's then forced him off wide.
So significantly compromised into turn 2 is Hamilton due to what Max has done to him.
So the stewards looked at it.
The stewards look at, tell us, Karen, how these qualified stewards look at this.
And
This is frozen.
judge.
You can see the screen's frozen. Give me 2 seconds. Right, I had to refresh that, so here we're back. Let's listen to what Karun's saying.
So the stewards looked at it and judged that they didn't believe that Verstappen deserved anything for that.
The stewards, you know, these qualified, impartial stewards, what gives them the credentials to make these decisions? They looked at it and they didn't think that Verstappen deserved anything for that. Didn't think he deserved the penalty for the lunge. Didn't think he deserved the penalty for colliding with Lewis Hamilton. Didn't, because Lewis Hamilton wouldn't have collided with anybody if Max wasn't there, would he? Doing an illegal manoeuvre. Yeah, so that's Max's fault. But Lewis Hamilton was considered for that. Was Lewis Hamilton the attacker? The one that was forcing his car at the other car? No, Lewis Hamilton was the lead car. There was a car that did a lunge in there and contact with Lewis. Oh, Lewis should have done more to avoid the contact there. No, he shouldn't. The other car shouldn't have been lunging. But tell us, Karun.
That's then forced him off wide. So the stewards looked at it and judged that they didn't believe that Verstappen deserved anything for that.
Again, the media conditioning everybody, validating Max Verstappen. Israel Verstappen, he's got the right to defend himself by committing genocide.
That bump and forcing Lewis off wide there. Let's go back and have a look at it again. Let's slow down. Watch Hamilton's hands. There's the bump.
And the bump, it's called a crash. Okay, a crash, not a bump. Let's look at the language we're using here. Let's downplay the incident by calling it a bump rather than causing a collision. You know, the offence where you get a 10-second penalty for, Karen.
And that has clearly forced him off the track, but on this occasion, the stewards thought...
crowding off the track, 10-second penalty, Karen.
Verstappen was entitled to the room. He'd got to the apex first, and
Verstappen was entitled to the room. Why was he entitled to the room? Had he met the criteria? Not that one. Had he met this bullshit criteria prior to and at the apex? Apex is too late. Where prior to? At what point along that straight prior to is the assessment zone? Oh, nobody knows because these are bullshit driving standards guidelines. But the stewards, the knowledgeable, unqualified stewards, determine that Max never gets the penalty. Max Verstappen rules. Look at Max Verstappen's hands here. I'll do this in slow-mo.
He was in front there. He's clearly in front through the second apex. Hamilton.
Max is clearly in front through the second apex. Yeah. Okay.
On this occasion, has forced him off wide. So it's
Hamilton has forced him off wide. Has he? Is Hamilton over the white line himself? Where's Max? Max is back on track. So having been side by side with him, okay, now Max is up there. There he is. There's Max.
Kind of a tit for tat.
Oh, that's tit for tat. The language by the validator. Side by side. Oh, that bit's tit for tat.
He was in front there.
So Max is that much in front there. Okay.
Clearly in front.
Max, look at his steering.
Through.
Max is now elected to steer off the track. Where's Lewis's car? Is there room for Max's car there? Right. Yeah. There doesn't look to be a collision in. There's no bumping there, is there, Karun? No, Max has just steered off the track. Oh, is this tit for tat, is it?
The second apex, Hamilton on this occasion has forced him off wide, so it's kind of...
Oh, this bit's tit for tat. Is this gaining a lasting advantage by driving in the corner, Karen?
A tit for tat situation there. And Verstappen's come out in front. He's popped up in the...
Oh, Verstappen's come out in front. Oh, he was side by side. He's now 3.5 car lengths ahead. But Hamilton's been able to get on the gas.
DRS.
And he's getting the DRS and the slipstream, so he now can gain that. But that's still gaining an advantage, isn't it?
He's just accelerating on. He has no intention of giving...
Oh, you don't want to talk about that, do you, though, Karun? You don't want to talk about that. Let's have a look at the steering inputs here. Now, this is key. Let's have a look at Max Verstappen's steering input. Now, we need to have Lewis Hamilton's car in view because we need to see the relative locations of the car when Max does the steering input. Okay, so let's have a look at it like this. Focus on Max's hands, but also look at the location of Lewis Hamilton's car relative to it. Let's slow this down to 1/4 speed as we go through it. Right, let's have a look.
He was...
So Max, steering wheel virtually vertical.
In front there.
Okay, slightly unwinding.
He's
Right. Does at this stage it look like it's possible for those cars to make it around there on the track? It looks like it, doesn't it? Look at Max Verstappen's hands.
clearly in front through this.
Oh, just fucks off, doesn't he? Does it look like he's attempted to remain on the track? No, does it? Is looking like this car with is Lewis Hamilton's car in view there? No, it's not. But where's Max going now?
Second.
Oh, he's steering to the right. He's steering over the grass. Is Lewis Hamilton in contact with him? Is he looking like he's going to hit him at that point? No, Max is fucked off. So, as such,
In apex, Hamilton.
was Lewis Hamilton then particularly trying to keep away from this white line to definitely leave more space for his opponent? Well, he didn't have to at that stage. At that stage, Max is already fucked off. Lewis can see here. Lewis can see that this car
Through this.
has departed. So the moment he departs, Lewis can then drift into that space.
Second apex, Hamilton on this occasion.
Is there still room for tyres to be on the track of the car? Now, it should be a full car width. Make no mistake about that. If that was a street circuit, there's not a car width. But Verstappen had made that choice. He'd put that steering input to fuck off across the grass. That's what he did. That's cutting a corner.
Has forced him off wide.
So this is Karun Chandhok validating Max Verstappen, vilifying Lewis Hamilton. Every time. Every single time. Validates Max Verstappen, vilifies Lewis Hamilton. Now there's more to this, but as you can see from this video, I'm 2 minutes 41 seconds into a 10-minute video. I'm not going to go through the entire amount, but there's further on boards. We'll go through the chicane, then there's the onboard from Behrman, and we'll watch a bit more of that and analyse that. But that will do on this video because I'm mindful of how long this has already gone on. Thank you for your time. But please start talking to other fans and exposing to them the bullshit that we're seeing. Formula One is corrupt. The FIA are entirely corrupt. These bastards at Sky Sports validate the corruption. You watch any other sport, if it's football, you've got pundits, you've got commentators. When they see some terrible decision making, they say, what is the referee doing here? How on earth have the referee made that decision? That is clearly a penalty, and the referee has waved play on. Why has the referee not given that free kick there? That is clearly a foul. The referee's got that wrong. But no, nothing like that for Sky Sports, is it? The Sky Sports can't identify, oh, Max Verstappen is dive bombed. Max Verstappen has caused a collision. Max Verstappen has crowded another car off the track. Max Verstappen has left the track and gained a lasting advantage. No, none of that. Oh, that bit's okay. The stewards have said Max doesn't deserve a penalty for that. But Lewis here does gain a lasting advantage. Yeah. Can you measure that lasting advantage? Can you tell everybody that what appears to be the advantage gained over Verstappen is actually due to Max losing that time himself, or a good proportion of that, due to Max fucking it into that chicane, going off track, coming back off track, being more concerned with driving Russell off the track, and that allowed Behrman through. Let's compare Hamilton's advantage over Behrman pre and post that incident to see how much time Hamilton actually gained over that situation, when we're not factoring in the time lost by Verstappen. Oh, we can't do that. Do any of the stewards know how to do that in their assessment? Are they qualified to know what it is they're looking at? Or do they just comply with the direction? What do these people do? What are their qualifications? Are they just yes people? Yes, we'll apply the Hamilton penalty. Will not penalise Max Verstappen. Oh, we realise you get sacked if you give Max a penalty, so don't do that, and you keep getting paid. That's fine. You keep getting your, or if it's an unpaid role. Why would we have an unpaid role in the pinnacle of the sport? Why would we have... Oh, it's just a volunteer from the St. John's Ambulance that's going to referee the fucking World Cup final. Fuck off. This is supposed to be the pinnacle of motorsport, and we'll have it adjudicated by a volunteer. Bullshit. Bullshit. Oh, but we'll fly you around the world. We'll put you up in the top class hotels, and there'll be expenses there, but it's a volunteer role. That's fine. What are these qualifications? What's the calibre of these individuals that are adjudicating on the pinnacle of motorsport? It's a corrupt shit show. Who's auditing these bastards? Who's auditing the FIA? Who's holding them to account? This is a corrupt, fraudulent entity, and Sky Sports are the contracted media to validate it all. Anyway, enough of this rant. Thank you for your time.